I should bring mine up as well. As in,
Shit, I had the video open, but now I don't. Hello, how's it going? Oh yeah, I do have the video open. Greetings,
okay.
everybody. Welcome to the Demotivator Opinion channel. I don't know what I call my fans. Somebody suggested once I call them the Sleepy Koalas. So, hello, Sleepy Koalas. What's up? I'm here with a guy called the Black Brit. Is that what you're known as?
Well, that's at least the handle that I've got going on Twitter. Right at the moment, I'm going by Jubilant Katarina. Anyone who plays Dark Souls will probably get that reference, and that's about it.
Is that from Dark Souls 1, 2, or 3, or all of them? Or
from the first one, it's basically the black skin, as it were, because of course that's the only one. And it's kind of funny with Dark Souls, and whenever you're making a Negro character, your only options for hair are basically bald or a shitty straight hair, well, Caucasian haircut of some sort. So it's a bit shitty, really.
What does Jubilant Katarina refer to? The skin color?
Yeah, but it's just me being racist at myself because I do that sort of shit. So,
oh, here it is. Yeah, it says Jubilant Katarina face from the first game. It's just like this bold, smiling black guy. Is that the?
Yeah,
that's the Jubilant Katarina.
That's it. That's basically it.
Oh, okay, funny. Yeah, I played Dark Souls 1, and you know, I made a little bit of progress when I got lazy. Apparently, it's real hard, but
it is really hard. I'm gonna say that you didn't get lazy. You just probably pushed it out. Because that's how I see it.
No, it didn't actually get hard. I defeated. I didn't even get very far. I defeated the first boss, and then I was fighting some skeletons, and then I just got bored, I guess.
Yeah, fair enough. I know it's not for everyone. It's a bit of an acquired taste. I've recently started up on Bloodborne, so I've been playing a lot of that.
Oh yeah, I've heard that's good. Yeah,
that's good, and it's a lot harder. So yeah,
right. It's a lot harder than Dark Souls. I heard Dark Souls was like the standard for difficulty in games. I guess next to everyone goes on about Cuphead for some reason, which I've never played, but
I haven't even bothered with that myself. Well, to be fair, I've played only the first Dark Souls. Dark Souls 2 just looks a bit kind of meh, but I'm gonna eventually get it. And Dark Souls 3 looks amazing, so I eventually want to get that as well. So.
But do you always actually pick the Jubilant Katarina default for each game, or is that just for your Twitter email or something?
Well, no, it's like whenever I'm playing a male character, it's usually the Jubilant Katarina. Sometimes I do like play just female characters if I'm like doing a bit of the role play thing. If I want to like play one of the daughters of the Witch of Izalith or some shit, stuff you're not going to understand. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I like being I like being a character that's completely different than me. So when I was playing Mass Effect, I was like a strong black woman who didn't take any shit. It's just like
that's about as different as you can get. So.
Very much unlike my life. Anyway, so you approached me just on Twitter, I suppose, about having a conversation, and you sent me a bunch of notes. There was like 4 pages of notes.
Yeah, sorry about
that. That's all good. And so I read through the notes, and I was just like reformatting them just to have a conversation about them, but I didn't get the whole way through. So I guess we can just sort of freeform off the notes. So
yeah, we'll wing it.
Yeah, so it was about, you wanted to talk about, I guess, issues of race and society and all that good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, like I know at the moment it's going really crazy where like everyone's being called a racist left, right, and center for like the smallest thing, and I've probably got a lot of hate just by saying that already. But at the same time, like it has kind of got a bit oversensitive in some ways. Now, I'm not saying I'm not going to be one of these sort of guys that says, "Oh, the word nigger is just a word," because like I mean that's actually one thing I actually want to bring up first and foremost is the word nigger, because like
you're allowed to
recently,
say that. I can't. I have to say N-word.
Well, see, that's it. Like that's the whole thing of like being allowed to say it and not allowed to say it and blah 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 blah. But to me, it's a matter of like I mean it is just a matter of context really, because like I mean we're talking about the words, so I'd say you can say the word. It's not like you're saying, "Hey, nigger, fuck off, back to Africa," blah blah blah. You know, it's just a conversation about the word, right?
And people talk about it with the hard R or like the soft A. Like so sometimes someone will say it and they'll be like, "It had a soft A," you know, so it's just friendly. But then
exactly
people say like, "Oh, you said it with the hard R." Like that was not the friendly usage. Like when PewDiePie said it. Everyone, I saw a lot of people saying like that was hard R.
Yeah.
That was a hard N word.
That's pretty much it. Now, in regards to the PewDiePie thing, I would say that I couldn't really defend his use of it because at the end of the day, he's saying, "What a fucking nigger," to someone who's pissed him off in a game, and it doesn't matter what color the person who was playing is. It's basically like, "Oh, you're someone who's the worst fucking scum imaginable, so you must be a nigger." I mean, that's probably not exactly what he meant at the end of the day, but basically, if nigger is basically meant to mean, oh, something that really pisses me off, something that's really fucking deplorable.
But I mean,
I think we've got an issue there. So,
I mean, to try to be charitable to PewDiePie, like I doubt he was even thinking about it in that way. Like he seems like a very immature person, so he was probably just thinking like this is a funny word, like it's a funny thing to say about someone. It's a funny way to express my anger or whatever. Like he's not thinking about the actual implications of calling somebody that or that creates a connotation whereby you're saying like an N-word person is a bad person, so I'm going to say it in like a negative context, and then people will be able to tell like, oh, he's used the N-word to refer to somebody in a negative way. And
okay,
it's, like, super offensive.
Tim, just do me a wee favor, right?
Oh yeah.
If you are gonna say it, just say it, because when you say N-word, it's just
I could say
like
Niger. The country? No, okay, that's probably more.
If you so desire, if you want to, like, try and make it feel, if you want to make yourself feel better about it, then that's one way to go about it. But yeah, go with that.
Okay.
Nigger. As you were saying, sorry.
If he says nigger with the hard R, like I don't think he's thinking about the actual implications of saying it. I think he's just being like, la-di-da, I'm PewDiePie, like I'm silly, zany person. And in gaming circles, people always say, offensive shit without thinking about their implications. Like we can sit around and think about the implications of things, but in those circles, people don't think about that shit. They're very immature. They're not rounded in terms of their view. To use the word,
Well, coming back to actually, I mean, I suppose I've been a bit of a hypocrite in that regards because there's been times I've used such terms as like faggot, bitch, or all that sort of like offensive shit in, well, this day and age. Well, in general, really. And it's like, I'm not really saying in reference to, say, a gay person because I am not in the least bit homophobic. Well, contrary to what I'm sure many people probably believe right now. But like, I'll probably use faggot in the, same context that PewDiePie would with nigger, not in a sort of
I don't know, but like, why do you do it? Is the point just to be edgy? Is it just to say I can, or is it because you're not thinking about what it means? Like you don't care about the implications, or like why? I find it very easy to not drop the F-bomb. Yeah. Oh, there I go, self-censoring.
Well, the thing is, right, I don't try to be edgy most times. Right. As for thinking about the implications, I'm well aware of the implications. But I also I think it's just a matter of what I say with nigger. Like, it's just a word and it's more the context that sort of like matters. But then again, like I said, the hypocrisy on my part is I'm going to use it because some things piss me off. Like I'm going to say something's faggotry because, this and that. So, I suppose.
For me, that's just like.
Yeah.
I guess it's easy for people because it's just like there are various words that you can just slip into your vocabulary with ease that some people are going to take offense to, and some people will be like, I recognize a fellow edgelord. We can just drop these offensive words all over the place. But I personally find it very easy to not do that. But sometimes I'm talking to someone and they're like, in fact, I was at a party in the weekend. And I have a friend he's actually like kind of like a feminist dude, and he's really progressive and stuff, but he still describes everything as retarded constantly. And I actually, I was just sitting next to him on the couch and having some beers and stuff. He's like, man, this thing in America or this thing over here is really retarded. Like, oh man, it's so fucking retarded. And I was just, eventually I wanted to be like, hey man, could you just stop saying retarded? Like, I don't know why you need to say that. It's really fucking pointless, but I couldn't bring myself to do it because it's like, it's real life. I'm like, I don't want to I don't want to put like a chill on the social situation. I don't want to look like I'm really fucking uptight and stuff and be like, hey man, look, chill out with the retard thing. But I just felt uncomfortable, and then that was it, and I didn't say anything. And is that the right thing to do? Like, if something makes you uncomfortable, you just sit there and put up with it, because if you say something, you look like a total nag or whatever.
Yeah, that's a difficult question. That like whether or not it is the right thing to do. Because at the end of the day, I think it's the right thing to do, and that I think your best bet is to just, if it makes you feel comfortable, just sort of like just leave the room or something, because it's like to try and basically say, hey,
I couldn't do that.
Offends me is right, exactly.
So, everyone was just chilling out in the living room and be like, I'm gonna get up and go to the other room now. I'm not
just say you're taking a shit, a really big shit.
No, like, you know, I appreciate the guy and he's a good dude, but you know, obviously he's picked up that vernacular somewhere, and it's just part of his daily speech. And then who am I to judge the fact that he's saying shit that I think is wrong to say, but in his experience, that's what he's picked up just from like being in the world. Who am I to like
that's it.
Tone police my friend? But at the same time, I'm like, this is really stupid. Can't use a better word. Or...
Yeah.
So
and tone policing, that's actually something that does bring me to a point which I'm going to follow up with in just a second. But in reference to the retard thing, I do all the time. But one thing which I find fucking annoying is when people like talk about spurging out or saying, oh, you got autism, or blah, blah, blah. You know, it's the usual fucking thing with the fucking edgelords. It's like, oh, autist, you know, it's just fuck off.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, so there's probably going to be about a shitload of autists in the comment section by the time.
I like autistic people, so that'll be good. So I think...
No, sorry, I meant like people saying autist in the comment section. I
think he's saying...
My phrasing there.
Lots of autistic people are going to be commenting on this stream, and I was like, I welcome you. Just come to my, this is a pro-autism channel. So everybody, if you're autistic, please comment. What the fuck was I going to say? I was going to say something else, but I've completely forgotten what it was. Maybe it will come to me. Oh, no. I was on Twitter, and, you know, sometimes I use, like, these offensive words to, like, make jokes and stuff. And it's usually to make fun of their usage. So I'll make fun of people saying autistic, or make fun of people saying nigger, or make fun of people saying retarded or whatever. And I did that once with the word nigger, and... Oh, no. Sorry, I completely misremembered. I was actually saying, like, I don't mind saying the N-word or nigger. Oh, God damn it. When I'm saying, like...
I don't know if you're saying, God damn it, to the saying N-word or saying the actual word itself. But
no, I'm completely... I'm being torn up by social justice sensibilities are being shredded right now. No, I was saying I like saying or singing along to, like, gangster lyrics. You know, like, I like Eazy-E and Ice Cube and all that shit. And just when I'm sitting in my room, I'll be like, yo, real motherfucking G's, yeah. And it's full of, like, N-words and gangster shit. And just saying that I enjoy that, and I kind of understand, you know, that kind of appropriation of, like, people, like, saying lyrics and stuff because they enjoy that music. And then some person on Twitter, like, quoted that and was like, wow, so this is progressives, like, they're actually really racists. And there was a ton of people, lots of black people just saying, like, that I was a racist. And I was like, so this is what it feels like to be called a racist. Now what do I do? And I didn't really get offended. I was just like, that's fair enough. You know, if you think that makes you racist, like, you can't say it even ironically, and you can't quote lyrics, and you can't do a variety of things. If you think that makes me racist, like, that's your opinion, and that's fair enough. And I'm not really one to comment on your opinion of me. You know, you can think that I'm a racist person, and that's just how it is. It did get a little annoying because there were so many people calling me a racist, but eventually I was just like, you know, different strokes, different folks. I think I just have different values around that. I think it's okay to, like, quote lyrics. It's okay to, you know, if you like something, it's okay to repeat that thing.
But
because,
that's just it, though.
Yeah.
Oh, go on, sorry. Kind of.
Well, like, they wrote that in the context of their social world, where that's the kind of vernacular they use all the time as a way of, like, expressing their social world, and then I'm just like listening to it and enjoying it and repeating what they said, but I'm not doing it in like a malicious way, like this is so cool, this gives me an excuse to say the N-word. It was more just like, this is music I like, and that word is a part of this music. But they were like, no, that makes you a racist. So I was like, okay.
Well, that's it. I mean, like, it's become Voldemort, and, well, has been for a long time. I mean, don't get me wrong, right? The word, like, actually does have a sting to it. I'm not talking like a whip sting or anything. I'm not getting all fucking weird on you. But, like, considering the past context, which it's been used, you know, in my actual past, you know, I know that there's definite negative connotations to it. And whenever I hear it, it does, well, whenever I hear it, of course, used in a negative manner. Or even if it's just used, like, casually, like, in a way where someone's like, oh, this won't bother the guy who's standing there who's fucking black, you know. It's like, so it's a bit hard. Like, yeah, like I say, I know that the word has negativity to it, but at the same time, it's just a matter of context. It's like, if someone was a bit more familiar with me, I'd be absolutely fine with them just sort of like using it in, of course, a positive context. But of course, if you know,
in a negative way around you, wouldn't that, you might get a chill, like, shit, he just used that in a way which is like really fucked up, and he's my friend, like, now what do I do?
Well, what would be a negative way? I mean, like, would you just?
Well, I don't want to do that because I don't want to give.
Well, obviously, you don't want to do that. But what I mean is, like, what would be an example of you just using it in a negative way? You know, like,
if someone was like, "Man, I'm so sick of these N-words" or something, or like, "Oh, that's that's, you know, that's what N-words are like" or something, and you're like, "Whoa, dude."
Well, I don't think I'd have been friends with them in the first place if that was their opinion. You know, so.
Right.
But of course, if it was someone who was a complete and utter douche who I didn't know, I'd be like, okay, he's clearly a racist.
I guess I'm talking about a slippery slope situation where, like, they use it so casually and so often that eventually they lose the ability to say it in a non, you know, insulting, offensive way. I don't know if that's realistic, but
I mean, I like I say, I don't. Actually, I didn't even say that. But no, I mean, I don't even hear it used enough. Last time I even heard about it, heard a word even used by Whitey was like at a party recently, and basically they were asking me about like permission. Sorry, why can you say it and we can't, sort of thing? And that's whenever I went into the whole thing about context with them, you know. And I mean, I just think it's as simple as that. Like, if you're using it with someone that you're a bit more familiar with, preferably, because you know I mean, you can't assume that my views on it are going to be the same as like some random other guy who's like, oh well, Black Brit said it's okay to say nigger as long as you're not being a dick about it. So it's like, hey, my nigger, you know, just like,
right. You know, well, one of the criticisms I received was that me reciting gangster or rap lyrics is basically just a thinly veiled excuse to say the word. Like, I want to say it. But I will say, you know, I do want to say it in the context of a song that I like. You kind of like, you know, you get in the mode, you get in the mood. Like when I'm listening to Slayer and I'm listening to like Angel of Death, I'm like, Auschwitz, the meaning of pain, the way that I want you to die. Yeah, I'm really getting into this, like these Nazi lyrics about like torturing and mangling and killing people. But at the end of the day, I'm aware that like these are like lyrics. It's not, I'm not actually saying this Nazi shit's cool. I'm just saying like it's fun to get into music, like get into the song, you know. And I do that with the rap music. So I say that, like, I flagrantly say the N-word, and I'm talking about, like, you know, jacking cars and I'm the most milquetoast white dude in the entire fucking world. So it's completely unrealistic to like equate that to my actual life. But I enjoy it, you know, like it's fun. Is that wrong?
If it works for Eminem and fucking Vanilla, well, not so much Vanilla Ice, but all those other fucking white rappers.
Somebody said Tim, edgy rapper. No, I think like the reason it's fun is because it's so completely not like me. I am the least edgy person in the entire fucking world, you know? That's why it's fun. It's like...
Right, there you go.
Yeah. When you get into music, it's like, it's a different experience. Anyways, okay. That's a good preamble to our conversation, but let's have a look at your notes. So you were talking about your own experiences with racism in the UK, and you wrote here that while things might not be as extreme here on the racialist front as it seems to be in America, that's not to say racism has been non-existent. the racism you've experienced has been rather typical. What you're trying to say is that racist people exist and will for a long time. Sorry, just reading through your notes here. I disagree with racism being an inherent trait in white people. Chinese people can be racist, Japanese people can be racist, and even black people can be racist. But the more extreme liberals focus on what seems to be racism, which comes from white people.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's your comment on what you wrote there?
Well, my comment is, well, that's pretty much exactly that. It's like that's just how I feel on the matter, and like I say, I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist. I'm not saying that it's not bad. I mean, it is fucking bad. But I think what the focus on the racism coming from whites does is... Now, I'm not going to say, right, that the left is why we have the alt-right. That's just fucking retarded. Sorry. That's just dumb. Sorry, that's
I'm leaving the room.
And...
As you suggested.
He's going to take a shit, people. Anyway,
yeah.
No, but at the same time, what was I going to say? Yeah, okay, that's just a stupid excuse because at the end of the day, these people must have been fucking racist to get racist. You can't say, oh, they call me racist, so I'm going to be racist because...
Now I want a white ethno state. Oh.
Yeah, all that
Look
shit.
what you did.
This is like, okay. And that's our fault. And when I say our fault, I mean, like, okay, I mean, I might not sound the most liberal person, but I would say that I sway more towards the left, but just not the extreme left, as it were.
Yep.
And that's the problem, is the extreme left. I mean, there's problems on fucking both sides, you know? It's like... You do have the extreme left, which kind of like blow things out of proportion, and they just fucking make it fucking shitty for the rest of the left.
Well, but isn't the question is like how actually significant or important is the extreme left? Because like I was in an argument with Sargon of a Card once, like the only stream that I've actually been on with that dude, and he was like, we were talking about Marxist professors in universities, and he was like, Tim, are there Marxist professors? Are there Marxist professors? And I was like, sure, yeah, probably. There's bound to be Marxist professors. And everyone was like, oh my god, Tim is red pilled. Like, Tim, you know, he agrees with Sargon, like, correct, or whatever. And it's just a stupid black and white thinking. And
exactly.
Dichotomous. It's like, if there is one Marxist professor somewhere in the world, that means that the left is just this raging problem which is destroying everything. Yeah. I think, like, my perception is that the media and people like Sargon, they blow these things so out of proportion that we cannot get a proper idea of like whether there actually is some kind of problem. Like, it's very hard to tell. It's just when there is a case of like, oh, this professor said some Marxist-y shit in a university, like everybody's head explodes, you know? It's like the biggest deal in the fucking world. Everyone's talking about it. Dave Rubin does a thing about it. Jordan Peterson is like, the whole world's falling apart. We need a database that has Marxist professors and all this shit. And I just think, like, it's difficult for me to tell. Like, I'm saying I'm not an expert on this, or I can't say for sure how much the quote-unquote left is causing all of these problems. And I think that, you know, people like Sargon blow it way out of proportion to the point that it's like you can't even tell. It's just like every little thing, some random professor yelling on a college campus is reported so many times by so many people on YouTube. It's just like, I don't even know if it's a very big problem. It's just a minor event with some annoying person, you know?
Right.
I don't know what you think about that.
Well, for me, basically, my education stopped in college, and I didn't do anything particularly spectacular. All I did was fucking performing arts, you know? All this shit about political sciences and all that, well, all the different stuff that you can actually take in, say, university now, it's like, I'm less like, I ain't gonna study it, whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is...
Oh, shit, I'm on camera now. You can see... I bashed myself in the head yesterday.
You're so small right now. I mean, I'm using my phone. You're just teeny little thumbnail. So
no, I always do this mistake where I click on one of the people in the chat and the camera stays on them. So the camera's been on you the whole time, and then I finally clicked away.
Shit.
Fucked my face up. Anyways, go on.
I was
trying to put together some shelves, and I had to pull one of the shelves off, and I was pulling it, and it was like right in my fucking head.
Yeah,
Blood.
now I actually see it, and now it's kind of well. I'm gonna have to just try and look away from that now.
No, it
What's just
wasn't
gonna
my wife.
distract
She
me?
didn't.
But
I'm not being abused by my wife. It's got nothing to do with that. Anyway, sorry, I completely derailed what you were
Hmm.
saying.
Well, I was just gonna say that. See, academia is the trump card that a lot of people on the left and the right sort of use as their sort of argument. It's like, oh, and it pisses me off the most on the right. It's like whenever you got fucking Richard Dickey Spen or other folks talking about stupid shit about like just history, basically, and it's just like, okay, cool, that's history. This is now, yeah.
Hmm.
So what
How do you
you're
mean?
well, basically things like the Roman Empire falling because of like, well, multiculturalism and all that shit. And I'm just like, I don't know anything about that, but at the end of the day, I don't think that that's going to be the fall of, say, Western civilization, like so many people seem to be implying.
But do you think
Um,
like because often people don't want to address or talk about like generational issues, like how slavery may have impacted African Americans over a long span of time, and they also on that stream had a conversation about Japan. And Richard Spencer said it's an ethno state. I don't think that's the case. I think it was an ethno state for about 300 years, and now they're talking about why does Japan have so much like cultural and ethnic isolation. And I think part of the reason is that the country was closed for 300 years to all foreigners, except like there's like some Portuguese or some traders who are allowed to like
yeah,
go to Nagasaki, but the entire country was closed for 300 years. And you could definitely argue that being closed for that amount of time has resulted in the homogeneity you see today. So it's like real world decisions and factors have an impact on today in a generational sense, like down through the generations. But people kind of
yeah,
change
that's
that to
it.
be like, oh, so you're saying that this exact thing is one to one happening because of slavery? And I think that's kind of like, it's a little bit simplistic. It's more like conditions that create the cycle of poverty
Yeah.
were impacted by slavery. We're not just saying it's one to one exact. It's like there's an influence, you know. Are you one of the people who thinks there is an influence there, or do you think it's just like we're in a completely different space now, so that doesn't really count anymore? What do you think?
Well, I'm going to talk about basically, say, the States and the UK. First, I'm going to talk about the UK. Now, I don't know a whole lot about Black history in the UK, but apparently we got rid of slavery way before the Yanks did.
Mm.
And okay, but at the same time, getting rid of slavery doesn't mean shit if you're still going to marginalize the people that are around, and that happened in America. Switching over to them for a bit, for the longest time. I mean, it wasn't until the civil rights movement where things actually, started to look up for them. And as for today, well,
But what do you think of
people are just trying to make it shit.
generational impacts of these kinds of things? Like, do you do you see those, or do you think that that's been erased, or like, what's your perception?
Generational impacts. Okay, well,
Hmm.
I think that they've been erased in a way because I feel like, at least for me, like I'm not really a product of any sort of like stereotypical what's the word I'm looking for? Culture, I guess. It's just sort of like I've grown up around a lot of white people as well as, black relatives and that. And how I feel influence is just like the fact that the family, well, my elders are usually quite moralistic and whatnot. They're not like what some would see them as. And like, I feel that
Are,
that's,
are you saying
sorry?
are you saying that your parents or your family, in your view, has not been impacted by any kind of generational lag caused by, I guess, older oppressions?
I wouldn't say so, really. I
Hmm.
wouldn't say so.
Right.
Uh, Whereas if we take, say, a certain sibling of mine, like he seems to think that it's the whole whiteys and cops keeping him down thing, because at the end of the day, he's not the sort of person that, you know, keeps his nose clean. But on a related note, actually, I've been stopped on at least a few occasions, like just walking home or biking home at night by the cops.
Mhm.
You know, they'll ask what I'm doing, where I'm going, where I live, etc., and blah 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 blah. And most times I'm shitting it. It's like, what the fuck, what the fuck, what the fuck. And there's a particular reason why I'm shitting it, which would be because I used to smoke a lot of pot,
Right.
to be blunt about it. And of course, the thing is, whenever I found out it's not even about that, it's more like, and on one occasion, it was basically because, like I said, sometimes I bike home, and they were like talking about my bike. They even like got on the radio talking about the bike and shit and blah 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 blah, and saying, "Oh, some good nick, isn't it?" Blah 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 blah. You know, and I was like, "Yeah, yeah, okay."
Like, oh, so you're gonna sell the bike for drugs? Is that it, or is it
No, no, no,
is
no,
it a
no.
drug bike? Did you get the bike from the drugs somehow? Like, is it made of drugs? Like, oh god, this is bullshit.
No, but like apparently they were responding to a call that someone's bike had been nicked, and I
Oh,
was
okay,
sort of
yeah.
like, "Oh,
But do you think that
okay."
like your skin color or whatever had an impact on their appraisal of you, or no?
See, that's it. You don't know. It could have been a case of like guy on a bike in the middle of the night. That looks suspicious, or it could have been Negro on a bike.
Right.
Must be him. So it's like, I
Yeah,
don't
yeah, yeah.
know. And that's the thing is like the whole don't know is a thing that I go through a lot. I mean, like progressives, mostly white, talk about things. They just say that's racist. That's racist. Blah blah blah. They
Right.
just say straight up. Whereas I don't hear a lot from black progressives. In fact, most of the fucking say black YouTubers I've actually watched anything of, and not to say that I'm fans of these people, by the way, like some black guy or Red Pill Black. And I will say that Black Brit was a pseudonym that I was actually thinking of maybe not using originally, because I didn't want to be associated with those guys. Be like, oh, look, he's putting black in his name. Clearly, he's one of those right-winger blacks. Yeah.
No, I
You
mean,
know,
I think
so
identity politics is okay. You just have to be a classical liberal and be like, whoa, just got gay married. Me and my gay husband, who I'm married to, just had gay sex. Someone is gonna clip that out, but you know, but like Dave Rubin, like every 2 seconds, he's like, me and my I got gay married. I think I'm pretty tolerant.
Right. That's it, though. I mean, it kind of reminds me of that thing with the guy who's running for Alabama. What was the
Roy
name again?
Moore.
That's the one. And like, he had his fucking wife up there. It's like, oh, people think we're anti-Semitic. Well, we got a lawyer,
That's right. We
and
got
he's
a
a Jew.
lawyer.
Oh, okay.
That's so good, eh? Well, but I think the thing about, I guess, implicit bias in policing is you can't read somebody's soul, and you can't really like
Mm,
read their heart in terms of why they are doing something. You could
right, that's it.
theorize perhaps like, there was that guy with the loose cigarettes, the guy choked to death. Perhaps you could theorize that he would have done that to a white guy. We'll never really know for sure. The only thing they can do is like based on trends, based on statistics, based on what appears to be happening in many of these videos, I guess try to adjust police training and
Yeah.
take into consideration that there could be implicit bias, that it could be racial, but you can't know objectively for sure. It's not like a objective factual thing that unless you get some mind machine that can analyze racism levels. But I think a lot of people just kind of take the next logical step, or the next step that they see as logical, to say like, yes, a lot of this is implicit bias, a lot of this is they're pulling over black people at much greater rates, they're like searching them at much greater rates, they're a lot more belligerent towards black people, and then kind of filling in the gaps to say like, yeah, that the gap is filled with racial bias just based on like common sense or what they're seeing, based on I guess empirical evidence. But it's not like objective fact because how could you measure the hearts and souls of these individuals and what they're doing? So I
That's
think
it.
yeah, I don't think of
I
that.
and that's well, what I think about it is that's kind of how I feel when it comes to say certain YouTubers. Not all of them. Like for example, I've pretty much made up my mind that Sargon is just he's in it for his own ego. That's about it, you know. I mean, I haven't watched that chat with him, fucking Dickie Spen on Andy Warski's channel because it's like
I like you call him
I'm not.
Dickie Spen.
It's just my
A
thing,
funny
but
nickname.
I I don't want to like add to the views on that shit because it's like, what's the fucking point? It's like, okay, so this is a racist dickhead, and he wants to basically kick out all the darkies.
Hashtag not an
What
argument.
more do I need to know? You know,
You can't
like,
call him. You just called him racist. You lost. You can't
oh
do that.
shit, sorry, I'm a total cuck now.
Well,
Sorry.
well, no. You were talking before about like how progressives and liberals or whoever I don't know who say call people and call things racist too often, and I agree with you in the sense that it does put people off and it's quite alienating. When I was being like mini dogpiled by a bunch of people for saying that I said the N word in rap lyrics or whatever. Sorry, I said N word again. I apologize. Now I'm being like reverse PC and apologizing for not
Yeah,
saying.
the irony there.
Yeah, when I was being like semi dogpiled by um some folks who were like, oh, you are racist. You're just a white racist. You're, fake progressive because you say the N word when you're doing rap lyrics or whatever. I understood like the motivation of people to just be like, fuck you, you fuck. I did everything perfectly. I never made any mistakes, and me saying the N word rap lyrics is fucking fine. Suck my dick, you piece of shit. Fuck all of you or whatever. But I just felt like, yeah, different strokes, different folks. Like I don't feel compelled to change my behavior about how I decide to sing lyrics when I'm on my own in my own room, or whatever, just in the fucking
Right.
car. But I understand
Well,
that you have that point of view. But I guess I understand that they do say racist very readily, and they don't think about how people might react to that. But at the same time, there are things like you just called Richard Spencer racist that when you see his whole thing of like a white ethno state and then like we just want to separate and do segregation and totally like destroy the whole social structure in order to have this fucked up ethno state thing, that it's very easy to look at that and say, yeah, that is racist. Like that is actually racist.
are you about to defend Dickie Spen?
How?
Oh, I can't hear you, by the way. You cut out for a second. Wait, what?
No, I mean, you can look at Richard Spencer and say that is actually a real, actual racist thing.
Okay,
But I think,
okay, right.
but I think, maybe me saying rap lyrics in my room or in the car or whatever, maybe it is racist. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm okay with a certain level of racism that doesn't really impact anything because nobody would care about the
Tim,
fact that I say the N word to rap lyrics unless I told them and I chose to tell them, so they choose to call me racist. And it's just it's
Tim,
free.
would you like me to help you to feel better? Yeah,
I feel fine. Go
good.
ahead.
Well, that's good. I mean, I just in case you're thinking about it too much. I mean,
Like,
yes,
I
you
know
are
a guy called
racist.
Black Brit. He says I'm allowed to say it.
There you go. You got my permission.
Yeah.
No, I guess I apparently speak for all blacks, but no.
Yep, I have a black friend.
There you
Anyways,
go. You got yourself some well SJW points, I guess.
no,
But
but I'm
no.
saying you can call Richard Spencer actually racist, but then other people are going to be like, "Oh, you call everything racist, anyways." Because where's the line?
In all honesty, I couldn't give a flying fuck if they think I think Richard Spencer's racist because oh no's opinions, you know? That's it.
But where's the line between like, "Oh, you're racist because you say the N word in your room when you're singing to rap lyrics, and you're racist because of the white ethno state," and then where's the line between saying that one's valid and that one's not valid?
Where's
Yeah,
the line? I think it's quite clear where the line is. Okay, one, you don't want to get rid of the fucking blacks, do you?
not
And
that
you've
I'm
cut out again,
aware
by the
of.
way. Right. Okay. There you go. Right.
No, that's the worst answer ever. Not that I'm aware of. I don't know.
Maybe. But no. No. But obviously, fucking Richard Spencer. He definitely has some racist views, and
Well,
as
he
far
would.
as I'm concerned, sorry.
I think he would argue that he doesn't want to get rid of black people. He doesn't want to do any kind of like genocide or anything. He just wants to separate the races. What's
No,
wrong
no,
with
no.
that?
But that's the thing, though. That's the thing. I'm not even saying that he's talking about genocide. Like I say, he just wants to separate races because at the end of the day, the blacks are whatever he thinks they are, and of course, well, if they're of course not worthy of his, I mean, like, oh god,
his magical fantasy land.
Yeah, that's it though.
But it's like, but they can always just make excuses about what they want to do. But one thing that annoyed me about the debate was somebody should have brought up like apartheid in South Africa, because I mean that's literally like they were trying to actually section that country into different chunks and separate people, and it resulted in a total shithole. It was like, a scandal of the global community, and when they actually finally got rid of it, people were fucking jubilant. They were like, the oppression has ended. And it's kind of like, that's the kind of thing that they're aiming for. They want like apartheid on a grand, massive scale, basically.
And I honestly, well, I can't say I don't see it working because it hasn't been tried, I guess. Well, there in the States, that is. So.
Well, they always cite Israel and stuff, but anyways, we're going too much into Dick Spence, whatever.
Dick
Expansion. Okay. You said here you don't do crime statistics based on race. Those only serve to talk up certain narratives. So what do you mean by that?
Well, that was the thing which, when you mentioned statistics earlier, I was just going to start sarcastically say, well, according to, statistics, I'm more likely to kill somebody, or rob somebody or whatever shit, or have a low IQ, So I'm just like, whatever. I mean, I just believe in individuals at the end of the day. It's like, you can't just say, black, clearly a criminal, thick as pig shit. Don't want him near my daughter. Done? Right. So, I don't know. It's weird.
Well, you also noted here, like, you said people spout blatantly racist narratives while disclaiming, I'm totally not racist, I'm just pointing out the problems.
Yeah. I mean, like, for example, there was that, and I hate to bring him up again, but there was that one Sargon video about like why black people have it so bad. I don't remember the actual video title, but it was like basically, and of course it was talking about like crime statistics and all that sort of shit, and like about single motherhood and all that sort of stuff. And I'm just sort of like, okay, cool. And what about all those white single mothers? What about all those white criminals and all that other shit? Because
when they say stuff like, black people kill black people the most, so they have the most to fear from black people. But it's like white people kill white people the most. Like people that you are the closest to are the most likely to do something to you. And, most rapes occur, for example, from somebody that people know. So it's like, okay, so we just have to like take everybody we know and stick them in a cage because they're dangerous, or
Yes, that's the perfect solution.
Yeah,
I think we should start right now.
Or like, I don't know, like get white people in a room and be like, why do you always kill white people? Why do you hate white people so much? Like, I don't hate white people. I'm white. Then why do white people kill white people the most?
Yeah, that's it. There's too many opinions based on, well, statistics.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, when I make a video, I can actually bunker down and look at statistics and actually think about them and review them. But if I'm just doing a like live stream or something, I'd have to use Google to look that stuff up. So you just end up saying vague things like, according to statistics, this is the case. And it's kind of like, it's an appeal to authority in a sense,
That, exactly.
But I wish that I'd edited your notes down more because there's so much shit here.
there is a lot of shit. I will agree with you on that, and a lot of
Stuff.
it was
I
just
don't
sort
mean
of
it in a
like,
negative way.
no, I get it, but I was sort of just doing a bit of a stream of consciousness thing. It was more really to remind myself of points that I might want to bring up. I think if you could just bear with me for a second, I'll quickly skim over it.
And this is a good bit here. Now,
Okay.
Tim, this is where you and I comes into it. Oh shit. Throwdown.
Oh,
Someone's
oh.
gonna fucking die right now. As you may remember, I once called someone who would argue with you. I was once someone who would argue with you whenever you went after Sargon of Akkad. How fucking dare you? Don't get me
Yeah, no,
wrong.
right.
I wasn't a rabid fan of his. I simply agreed with some of the narratives he put out when it came to things like feminism, oppressive liberal policies, and things like that. But I trusted him too much to provide valid sources, and my arguments with you were based on my opinion that you hated the guy too much to see anything good that he did. The stream he did with Jared Taylor was a notable example where you believed he didn't challenge the man enough. Looking back, I feel you were right in that, as the only disagreement he gave seemed to, and then it trails off.
Yeah, that was me just sort of like, maybe I should actually rewatch that to make sure that I got my facts right, but I didn't get around to it and I thought, well, fuck it, whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think he even really challenged him enough. I will have to agree with you there because, like, he was agreeing with him on a lot of things. And that's the thing. It's like, okay, yeah. I can't even say he was even agreeing with him on good points either because at the end of the day, Sargon has no fucking good points by this point. And
Well,
Jared Taylor certainly fucking has none. Go on, sorry.
I think actually like a better example perhaps, and it's not about race, would be his conversation with Amos Yee, where they were talking about like pedophilia and stuff, and Amos would always be like, you know, a baby can do this and a baby can do that or whatever, and blah, blah, blah. And then Sargon would be like, but you're not actually saying that, right? You're saying like a little bit older and like they would probably be able to consent and it would be a little bit of a situation. And then Amos would be like, no, definitely just talking about having sex with babies or whatever. And then Sargon would be like, well, a lot of people are going to not understand what you mean by that. So let's kind of like get into the details there and the nuance. And you're actually talking about a kind of different thing. People are probably going to misunderstand you, right? And he's like, nope, just talking about banging babies. And I was like,
Okay.
why is Sargon working so hard to try to make this guy look better? He's telling you what he believes. He's just saying, no, I don't believe in consent. And he's 100% for pedophilia. Why do you keep trying to say, so what you're really saying is this, right, Amos?
Okay, first of all, I was gonna say, just do me a favor, like, just leave Amos fucking Yee out of the conversation. But you know what? No, I do have to actually say something about him because you reminded me of something which I was thinking about, and this is why I've stopped following V. Or
someone in the chat, mischaracterization of Sargon. No, it's totally not. Sorry, go on. That's entirely fair.
Speaking of mischaracterization, like I remember whenever, of course, V decided to talk about Amos Yee, right? And I thought, well, let's see what he's going to blame the left for this time. And I couldn't have fucking called it any better because I watched the whole fucking thing and he was calling fucking Amos Yee a leftist, saying about like how he spouts leftist propaganda, of course he's leftist, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, I'm done. I'm out. If you're going to fucking blame this dickhead on the fucking left, fuck you.
Well, that's the thing, though. Apparently Amos Yee converted to like some kind of left-wing communistic something or rather.
I couldn't give a fuck. He can fuck off then, because at the end of the day, he's not even. I have no good words.
Well, no, you shouldn't.
Let's move on. But you know that fucking thing with V, where he was basically like, oh, blah, just. I mean, like, I couldn't even believe that it was a case of like him not knowing who the guy is because his fucking daddy was fucking, you know, trying to groom fucking Amos Yee, you know, so I'm pretty sure he fucking know who he was and his fucking values, you know. And then, of course, he makes this apology video like, oh, I totally didn't know who he was, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, fuck off, you know. And then it's like, but look, the left did say something like this, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, cool.
Well, I do think it's logically incoherent to be like, look, he's a leftist and he loves pedophilia and hates consent and stuff because, like, what if he was a hardcore communist? What would that have to do with his views on consent and being a pedo and stuff? And it's the same if he was like,
Oh no,
if he was far right, I would say like he's far right, which is bad, and he
yeah,
has these other views which are totally fucking insane. But it's not because he's right wing; it's because he's just gross. Like, you know, like Milo Yiannopoulos or whatever. I'm sure like there's people who share his politics who don't quite have the same view on, you know, an older gentleman banging a child and how great that is, whatever. You know,
yeah. Well, he's.
it's not about their
Good luck to him.
politics. I mean, that's more of like their personal character, and I mean, to an extent, there is an element of it with MSU, which is his politics, which is that his like radical libertarian streak of like anybody should be able to say anything at all times and advocate for everything and anything. But it was also a personal crusade. Like he felt like he was the hero for like the poor downtrodden pedos in society and everything. And I think it's just at the end of the day, you just have to say that that individual has
Is a fucking weirdo.
well has certain quirks to him that make him not categorized, not able to be categorized based on left and right. You know.
Mm.
Yeah. So
well,
I
that's it though.
Yeah.
And you see, that's a very, you know, fair way to take it. But of course, when it comes to the right, they'll be like, oh, one leftist believes this, or assumed leftists. That means all leftists.
Right.
You know, I mean, like I say earlier on, I'm not exactly an extreme leftist sort of thing, and I do sway more towards left, and that's why I do sympathize more with the left than the fucking right. And one thing I actually did want to say earlier was that, yeah, on the right, I wouldn't say that because of all the fucking extreme right dickheads that all right wingers are complete assholes. You know, I'm pretty sure that there are actually some fine, upstanding people amongst the right.
Well, it's funny because I actually know a couple of right wingers whose political views I think are total garbage. No offense to them, but they do seem like, you know, good faith, and they seem like they're not in it just to like cause spite or, you know, hurt other people. They just have beliefs that I think are fucking wacky, you know, and they're very rare. It's very rare to find people like that because you tend to just meet people who, due to the whole political fight, are extremely vindictive and they get very angry, like they want to destroy you and shit, you know. But I have met a few who I can say like, okay, your views on taxes and fucking healthcare and society and small government and stuff are a total mess. None of it makes any sense. I don't think it would work and it's not going to help people. But when I talk to you, you do seem like a good faith person, like you genuinely believe these things and you're not vindictive or angry or hateful when I disagree with you. I know maybe like 2 or 3 people like that, and then almost everybody else is just on this rabid, you know, hate kick constantly whenever you say anything they disagree with. They're like, you fucking idiot, you dumb fuck, like stupid piece of shit. They're never like, oh, like, or barely ever like, oh, what do you mean by that? Like, what are the logistics of that? How does that work? They're just like, you fucking ignorant moron, like you don't know shit about anything, you know. That's the common, that's the more common approach of people. Yeah,
that's it. There isn't really much debate. And speaking of debate, like with Dickie Spen, for example, I actually thought into myself,
why Dickie Spen? Sorry, it's complete.
Well,
it's not important, but
you know, Rich, Dickie, and then Spen. I'm like, Dickie Spen. Yeah, Dickie Spen. I like it. I like it.
Oh, fair enough.
Okay. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. I actually saw that a couple of interviews where he had that one British fella who he was being interviewed by, and of course he said things to get this guy riled up, so it didn't go down too well, sort of thing. And the same whenever he was being interviewed about one black guy in America, and things escalated. And I thought to myself, well, I wouldn't mind actually, you know, having a bit of a talk with him, actually seeing, like, without just making straight up accusations, like what his views are, how he actually hopes to achieve his fantasy land, and of course, just sort of like just come to my own conclusions from how he answers. If, of course, he starts being a fucking frogtard and starts trying his best to make me pissed off, I'll be like, cool, and just continue to try and keep calm and rational about the whole thing.
I don't think that's his brand though. Like I think his brand is that he is trying to come across as some kind of stable, balanced individual who's just talking about philosophy and all this kind of stuff. And so I think part of his brand is not getting belligerent at people. Like he'd prefer people probably to get belligerent at him because it makes them look bad. And that was probably one of the big errors of Sargon of Akkad is, because he's got such a big ego and he always thinks he's right and he thinks he's like some kind of fucking philosopher or something who has everything about politics right. And he understands everybody else's point of view. Like, I understand your point of view better than you, and constantly that kind of shit. That he came off really bad in the debate because he gets so personally affronted when people don't just think he is right about everything all the time, So he was getting increasingly sort of like discombobulated, I suppose, about the fact that his points weren't hitting the mark, and people were being like, you're not listening, or you're not paying attention, and you're not really taking part in this debate in a way that makes you look reasonable, even though you're the one arguing against the ethno-state, you still come off like the idiot, and I think like that's part of Richard Spencer's brand as well. Like he wants to be the stable, calm, philosophical representative of this wacky, insane, fantastical concept. But so long as he remains calm and just keeps spewing his nonsense, he wins, basically.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about winning.
He wins in the sense that he can get as many people to his cause as it's possible, given how fucked up and insane his cause is. I think he's going about it the best way to get the most amount of people behind him. Because it's not quite as he's not as overtly insane as someone like Alex Jones or whatever, who gets a lot of like clicks for the entertainment value. He's more just like he's playing. I think Richard just trying to play the long game. I'm not saying it's going to be successful or anything like that, but I think like he's not about to just start calling you the N-word or like being like get out of my face, or he's not about to start being belligerent. Sorry, you were saying like you tried to talk to him.
No, well, the opportunity was presented, and even whenever, was it Spinosaurus King?
Right, David Sherritt, yeah.
Whenever he was
he's called Alternative Facts these days.
Oh, okay. Alternative Facts, yeah. Whenever like he was going to talk Richard and that, I was sort of thinking, oh, that's interesting. I mean, like, I wouldn't mind like joining that as well, just because, I mean, and that's the thing I actually wanted to bring up was the platforms that these people debate on, like the Andy Warski, and who was the other one that hosted him?
JF? The French guy?
No, the one that when David was on. When David was, it was with Styx, wasn't it?
Oh, Baked Alaska, yeah.
Oh, it was with Baked Alaska. Yeah, there you go. So it's like, that's going to be a fucking biased platform straight up. And you could say the same if like, oh, I don't know, he came on, say, your channel. But I think he'll probably, well, I'd hope that it'd be a bit more even. In fact, I'd prefer it if it was just like him and one other person, or even just him and you, rather than like it being like a whole bunch of fucking people against one person or vice versa,
Well, somebody was saying to me, like, because I was kind of reviewing Sargon of Akkad's performance, and I just think he got flustered, and I think his own ego and his own sense of I'm right not only about my views but about everybody else's views. I just understand everything because I'm a fucking liberalist super brain or whatever. I was criticizing that, and somebody was like, oh, you hate Sargon of Akkad because he's someone you don't like, and it's just always like, that complaint that you had about me before. Like, whenever I say anything about Sargon, everyone's just like, it's some kind of hate bone or something, but I legitimately think he did a cringy job. It was really awkward. He kept derailing everything by being offended by everything, and always being like, he was all like, are you finished bloviating yet? Somebody was bloviating, Richard. And I'm like, passive aggression doesn't help. And then Andy was like, so do you want to address what Richard Spencer said? And he's like, "Oh, I wasn't even listening because I just zoned out." And I was like, "Oh my god, dude, you're doing a terrible job. Like, you should at least listen to what he's saying, even if he's a douchebag." And then finally, Waski was like, "Hey, Richard, do you want to repeat what you said to Sargon?" And I was like, "Oh, you just come off like a moron here." Okay, I was criticizing that, and somebody said, "You always just hate on Sargon," but with the debate between Richard Spencer and David Sherratt, I actually thought Baked Alaska did a pretty good job of moderating. Like he wasn't really, he didn't chime in with things that were like on somebody's side. Like in the JF conversation, JF kept coming in and being like, Richard Spencer has a really good point, or like, you're strawmanning Richard Spencer. And it was totally unnecessary. Baked Alaska didn't do that. He read some super chats. He came in every now and then to like just try to clean things up. And I was like, you know what? I don't agree with Baked Alaska. You know, obviously he's like a loony conservative dude who's just wants attention far too much. He did an all right job. He did a fine job. If it was just about hate voters, then why would I give him credit? Why would I say Baked Alaska did a good job? I'd be like, Baked Alaska sucks and I hate him. Therefore, his moderating was terrible. No, it's fine.
Well, I might even watch the one with David, rather than the other one, because the other one, I've heard the cliff notes. It doesn't sound like anything that I need to watch. I think it's pretty clear how that went. So,
there is one criticism, though, which is that the first literally like 30-35 minutes is just Richard Spencer and Baked Alaska talking amongst themselves as David sat there in silence for like 35 minutes. And I was like, whew, man, David has a lot of patience to just sit there and listen to these guys talk without doing anything. But eventually, when he came in, it got good. So,
okay, well, that's good then. Oh, how long does it last?
Oh, the debate?
Yeah.
Hour and a half, hour something.
Okay, cool. Because like some of the streams just go on for like, well, I can hold my attention for longer than Sargon can, but like if it gets beyond like a couple of hours, then I'm just done. So
right. Well, the funny thing is that though after David left, they Braving Ruin, James Allsup came in, and Millennial Wars came in, and it was like 5 white supremacists doing like post-debate wrap-up. And I was like, man, I was thinking like, man, David did such a good job. It's like, you're going to need more troops. Like, you're going to need a bigger boat. You're going to need more white supremacists. Like, it was hilarious. It was like, I don't know about licking their wounds, but it's just like, it's funny that the so-called like triggered libtard lefty, progressive, whatever, soy boy, he just came off way classier and way better than Sargon. And it's like, that's so.
Well, I'm pretty sure it does sting, which is probably why he's likely going to make a video about it at some point. Bear with me for 2 seconds. Just going to quickly plug this in here.
That's all good. So, like, yeah, how are you doing for time on this stream?
Oh, fine. Actually, I'm actually enjoying the talk. I mean, if you have anything else you want to talk about, then shoot.
Well, I was looking at some more of your notes, you had some stuff about Brexit and okay, you had a thing about, I guess, progressivism. You said making it something to educate those who are susceptible to extremism, perhaps not to demean, attack, or down-talk those who don't agree with you. You said it's not an accusation against me, but just an idea for like progressives, I suppose.
Well, sorry, when I say progressives, I don't mean like all progressives. I mean more like the YouTubers who it mostly becomes a case of like, oh, some right winger did something stupid, got to talk about it, and it's like, well, cool, but I kind of know that it did something stupid. I saw it
because that's what they do. That's like, their job is to do stupid things.
Right, exactly. So it's like, okay, cool, right? How about talk about, say, an issue in the actual world rather than this dickhead YouTuber, and how you might actually change that thing if you want your ideals to come to pass. Like, what can some of these progressives on YouTube do to enact the change that I'm sure many of them desire?
Right.
Whether it comes to, say, donations to certain charities or not, or even just like a bit more like progressive activism rather than just sort of like doing it, say, via YouTube, actually getting out there and sort of like, help forming like communities with people in the really real world, just doing something to actually that sounds a bit weird when I talk about like activism, like and getting out there and meeting people. It probably sounds like I'm talking about some weird, crazy, I don't know, Antifa shit, but I'm not. I'm basically just like saying to actually get together in like communities and actually talk about things and actually implement change and sort of like way, or even like a bit more long term. And it of course takes a bit more work. If say you don't already have the education for it, just get into either in academia or even better in politics. Because at the end of the day, politics is kind of where all this shit, it's the socio-political stuff. So like, that has a massive effect on it. You know, otherwise, all we're gonna all we're gonna get is fucking talk show hosts and other dickheads running the world, and I'm pretty sure we don't want that. So,
Well, there is kind of a collision right now because like Andy Warski was having a fight with David Pakman, and David Pakman is like he's kind of like a progressive, and he's kind of in. What's that?
No, I said talk show host. I meant game show host, but carry on. Sorry.
Well, yeah, he is. I guess who's a talk show host, Warski or Pakman?
No, don't worry about it. But moving on. So you're saying about David Pakman?
Well, Pakman made some tweet about Warski, and then Warski got pissed off, and now he's kind of like ranting about like David Pakman's a rat and he's a liar and he's a scumbag and that never happened and all this kind of shit. And it's really weird collision of two different sides of YouTube because David Pakman is like very low drama. He's very just like, oh, the Democrats are doing this today, the Republicans are doing that today. Like, oh, this I don't know, homophobic preacher said this today, or like what's the impact of socialism on the world today, and let's explore that. Let's do a long form deep dive into these different philosophical topics, and here's some more news about what Trump's been doing today. Versus Andy Warski, who's basically becoming like the Jerry Springer of YouTube, really. It's just like you get people on who have personal grievances and issues with each other, and they get very passive aggressive and they get very angry, and it's all about just like the way I phrased it is like slapping the dicks together. I don't know if it sounds like
no,
I don't know if it sounds bad. Well, there's not a lot of vaginas there, so there's not very many vaginas being slapped around either. It's just a big sausage fest of dudes like trying to one up each other on their egos and say, I'm more informed than you, I'm better than you. You are a bigger liar than me. You're dishonest. I'm the person who understands everything. And they have these like big streams that last for like 4 or 5 hours. And it's just fascinating to see the kind of David Pakman side of YouTube, which is like I'm just talking about politics. I'm talking about like I don't know regulations. I'm talking about these bills that are being passed. And talk about the situation in Yemen or something. And talk about some drones and drone warfare and bombing and what's going on in Syria, or global political stuff, colliding with this side of YouTube, which is just like, you are tired, dumbass, like you lied about me, you straw man, like, and just fighting for like 2 hours or whatever. And they're very kind of like incompatible. And I guess like people like the fighting, they like the battle, they like the war. But Dave Pakman, for example, who is a progressive, so he's like lines up with me, he's not really doing that. And it doesn't get quite as many clicks and views. It doesn't get quite as much attention, like it's low drama. But the people who do watch it find it rewarding and interesting to hear about news and politics, And is there like do you think there's a middle ground between like the dick slap fest and the politics, or do you think it's more just like David Pakman and stuff should stay on the politics, but also try to get into some real world stuff somehow, like more meetups and more, activism, as you say?
Yeah, I think that would probably be a good thing with David because, for one, he doesn't focus on like the drama side of things. So, of course, he's got a bit more reasonable way of going about things to actually take that into the really real world and actually, do something with that could actually be good. But as for like the the other extreme, it's like that's a tale as old as time. It's been happening even fucking before YouTubers were a thing. Like, stupid reality TV shows and everything. People just love shit. People love like, oh,
Well,
fight, 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 you
I
know.
think I
And
think
it's just
the massive fighting streams are more than before now. Like they are really taken off at this point.
mm,
Of like eight
yeah,
people just screaming screaming at each other for 4 hours,
that's it. I mean, like I say, old tales all this time. It's just gonna fucking keep going. That's going to be where things go. And it's like with how politics in the US seems to be, people want the person who's gonna cause the most fucking outrage, the one who's causing the most shit. And like, anyway, if you could bear with me for like 2 seconds, I'm just going to grab another little bit of tequila.
Oh,
Okay.
drinking. I'm
Something
that
like that.
hard to talk to. That
Yeah.
sucks.
All right, it's in a second.
I can read a little bit from his notes then. Once again, I digress. What I mean by focusing inwards is something which applies to a fair few factors. And I hate to do this, but you know what's going to happen. I'm going to talk about Trump. Yeah, Trump is the president of a superpower, but not the president of the world. Nothing that people outside the USA is going to make much difference to their situation at the end of the day. Here in the UK, we're having to deal with the fallout of a yes vote on Brexit. Some will say that it will get better once what is realistically a realistically slow process is finalized, but I honestly can't say for sure what I believe, as I'm not too informed on the matter. But I don't think many people were from either the yes or no camp. Remainers see the anti-immigration side of it, while those who are more progressive instantly label it as a bad thing by dint of that, while those Remainers who are more informed will examine the more economically focused factors which could make it a bad idea. The narrative span to get Leavers on side was heavily driven towards anti-immigration, pro-nationalism, and the usual stuff which many of the more conservative types would welcome with open arms. I didn't start getting into politics in any serious fashion until after the yes vote passed. I even knew a few people who voted yes on Brexit, and sorry, I'm just reading from your notes right now. And the reason they gave tended to be, I did it for my family. I have to wonder what the implications were, but at the end of the day, family comes first, no? So if they were duped into thinking it would in some way benefit them and their families, who can blame them? Sorry, I've just been reading from your notes. I was just reading about the section about Trump and Brexit. You were saying that people outside the US, what they have to say will not make a huge difference. And you also said that you started getting into politics after the yes vote passed on Brexit, and that the narrative on the Leavers side was driven towards anti-immigration, pro-nationalism, and the usual stuff.
Yeah. So that was what people were thinking that they were voting for and whatnot. But whenever I was actually speaking to some of the people who did vote yes on Brexit, the thing that they mostly said was, I did it for my family. And it's like, okay. I mean, I didn't really question them further because, of course, didn't really want things to get heated.
Do you mean yes on Brexit?
Yes on Brexit.
What do you mean did it for their family? Like, so you didn't find out what they meant by that?
I didn't find out because I didn't question them on it. It's just like whatever. Because again, like I said, I didn't want things to get heated because how.
Well, no, a lot of the time they'd say things like foreigners are flooding in, they're ruining our country, like we're being controlled from Brussels, who are like kind of dictatorial in their powers, and we are just stuck in this place where we are not entirely sovereign or whatever. Aren't those kind of the reasons that people are giving?
Most of them weren't even giving reasons. That's a problem, and it's just sort of like they just narrowed it down to did it for my family. And I'd only spoken to 2 people, but they both gave the exact same answer. And it was, I'm going to say that it more likely is what you're sort of like saying it is, because that was of course what was being pushed. And another person who actually voted yes was an old friend of mine, and of course he's kicking up a stink saying about like he voted for an immediate leave, and I was sort of thinking, oh wow, you really thought it was going to be that fucking fast, huh?
Well,
And
that's the amazing thing about it is that when I saw Brexit win, just in the vote, I saw it originally, my perception was, oh, this is going to happen real soon, and all of a sudden, like, England will be out of the UK. But it's just been amazing to watch this out of the UK, out of the European Union. But I was like, it's just been amazing to watch this protracted process move further and further away from these constant deadlines, or keep
yep.
moving the deadlines over and over and over again. I was just like, man, what an albatross to have around your neck as like a politician or whatever.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's just hilarious. I mean, getting back onto UK politics, actually, maybe I should actually stick to home shit for a bit, even though I don't actually know a great deal. But it was funny whenever, of course, we had the snap election, because, like, you had so much fucking propaganda from Sargon to basically make sure that everyone thought that fucking Jeremy Corbyn was going to be like a fucking Hitler, essentially.
God,
and
he's got such a hate boner for that guy.
He really does. It's funny. And then, of course, like, fucking Theresa May didn't actually get as many votes as he expected. And of course, like, he was just fucking triggered to all fuck. It was amazing. And like, wasn't this the horse you were backing, mate?
Well, I think like it's being put in a very difficult situation, and it's a little bit different, but it reminds me a little bit of Trump's wall, because like that was kind of like it's a self-imposed idea. Like he's the one putting out the wall concept constantly. We need the wall. We got to get the wall. We have to have the wall. But like everybody who actually looked at the wall is like, it's not very feasible. It's not really going to work. It's got a ton of money. It's going to be probably a huge waste of money, and it's going to be just pointless. But okay, you need the wall because you've talked about it 10 billion times. And at a certain point, it just becomes a kind of like, an albatross around Trump's neck, because his fans are like, where's the wall? We need the wall. And then Mexico's like, we're not going to pay for it. And it's just a debacle. But I think it's a little bit different in that the wall is it's a useful talking point for his base. Like it appeals a lot to them. So even if it's a fantastical thing like the white ethno state, which is never really going to take off, it does help appeal to his voters and supporters. But I don't know if Brexit has that kind of pull to it. It's basically just like, when are you going to do Brexit? You don't get any benefit from just saying you're going to do Brexit. Like you have to do it. Whereas Trump gets a lot of benefit from just saying he will do the wall. And then he can make excuses like, oh, I couldn't do the wall because of the Democrats, or I couldn't do it because I couldn't do it because of Congress. Probably how it goes. Whereas with Brexit, it's basically just like, you can't really make excuses. You just look ineffectual and useless. And I think Brexit's worse for people like Theresa May than Trump's wall, even though they're both just slightly fantastical ideas, because leaving the European Union is not necessarily going to be a great boon. So
probably not, but I guess eventually we will see how that goes. So
right. But do you think, like, I don't know, that kind of the benefits that they have been talking about with Brexit are going to materialize? I guess it's somewhat of an unknown, but like I'm just imagining that once Brexit goes through,
what benefits? A blue passport? What, a blue passport?
A little bit of
out or something?
But yeah, a little bit of a mix around in some immigration rules and laws, and but some changes in passports, and potentially some economic fallout that would probably be negative. So and like, please let us stay in the what's it called? What's the market called? The one market or whatever. Brexit market. It shows you how closely I've been following this.
Yeah. Trust me, mate, I'm
single market.
The same boat there.
Let us stay in the single market.
See, okay, here's a random thing, right? Whenever it comes to immigration, most of what you'll hear that aimed at is, of course, those that come from the Middle East or any other war-torn sort of areas, right? Whereas the region which I'm living in myself has it's like it's had a lot of immigration from Europe, mostly Eastern Europe, and see, I don't know whether to say that that has become a detriment to the area, or if they're any different from, say, the people who live sort of here or not. I think maybe in some way it's inherent bias on my part, where I just like walking around and all I hear is some fucking foreignese, and it's like, oh, where the fuck's all the English people gone? You know, it's like,
Mm.
but yeah, and then I hear about, of course, the trouble that they cause, like fucking mugging people and all this other shit, and I'm just like, it just makes me think probably like what certain whites might think about, say, people of color moving into a certain area. So I don't know. It's kind of weird putting myself in that sort of mindset.
I think it's mainly just a matter of like the fear mongering that goes on from because you were talking earlier about like statistics. You can look at statistics and say this is a trend and this is something that's happening, and we can look at that issue. And there's a difference between saying that and just fear mongering, like, oh, the hordes are killing all of us, and we're all, you just everyone's going to be constantly raped and mugged and killed and murdered, and it's just a war zone, like how people talk about Sweden and everything. I mean, there are real problems, and there's going to be growing pains and issues and difficulties with immigration, but that's not the same as just like going berserk and then having these really draconian rules and ideas that are not really fair, just to the general populace and just people in general. So I think that's the main
Yeah.
issue there for me.
No, I get it, and
Like you can say like, oh,
like,
okay, there are immigrants coming in who have difficulties adjusting, and there could be somewhat of a culture gap, and they need to acclimatize to their new environment, and there will be some people, in a group, who could be criminals and may cause issues. But it's
yeah,
it's about like how do you approach that and how do you deal with it? And I don't think just fear mongering about people who have different skin color is the way to go. Making propaganda videos and constantly going like, "Oh, the hordes are destroying our, perfect British."
mm.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you there. And then, like, if I was to become a YouTuber, it wouldn't be so like, oh, the Polish, fuck the Polish. But um,
Why the Polish? Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, I suppose I'll move on from that thing. I was just basically sort of like saying about how I sometimes feel just like some of the right wing dickheads, but just in a different format. So I don't know.
Well, so where would you put you? We could start to wrap it up but you said here towards the end that you said what matters to me is my future. If you lacked an education in the past, it's up to you in life to change that. So you said earlier that you left school. Was it like high school or something? Or
Yeah, after high school, I went on to do performing arts at college. And then I didn't like go on to university or anything like that. Now, I couldn't. What I was basically getting at was that my lack of education or whatever is not something that I'd blame on either IQ or even say like the white man keeping me down or some shit. It's more like I didn't pursue it further, and the opportunities are there. It's upon me to actually, take up those opportunities. I haven't done so. But actually, another thing, actually, because thank you for reminding me, I was saying about how in high school, because I moved around a fair bit back in the day, I went to three different high schools. The first one I went to was in Northern Ireland. It was like boys and girls. I felt I got on pretty well with my fellow students for the most part. Then moved over to England, and I went to another, well, boys and girls high school, and I was getting on extremely well. And we were even gonna do Midsummer Night's Dream, and I was looking forward to it, you know. And then like it's like, oh, we're going to Northern Ireland again. It's like, oh, okay.
Mm.
So then went to Northern Ireland, and I went to an all boys school. And like it was worst fucking like high school for me, you know,
So
just because
why were you moving around high school so much?
no, just because of the careers of my parents at the time.
Oh,
So
okay. So just like organically.
yeah, it wasn't a sort of thing of like weird troubled child just getting moved from one school to the next. It was just matter of circumstance, really.
Right. So when did your like I don't know education career? You did performing arts, but you didn't finish
Yeah,
that.
that was back here in England. I went to basically audition for the course at both Belfast and here in England, and I got in both. But because again we were moving, I came here, and I feel like things have kind of gone downhill since. I don't really like the area I'm in. It's kind of a bit of a dead end town, and I'd rather get out. But of course, it's a matter of like making the money to get out, vicious circle sort of thing. So
Do you feel that your education, just going to a certain point, has had an impact on your living circumstances, or do you feel like that's completely detached or separate
no,
from?
I'd say it probably has, because I think if I actually was a bit more qualified in such things as like business or just anything more than the four GCSEs I have and the performing arts A level, I think of course I'd be in a more better paid job and something a more stable career, and
But then that would make it
I'm not
easier to like it's kind of like you need money to make money, right? Because like if you
right.
had more money from a better paying job, you would also be able to afford more education, right? So
Yeah, exactly that.
yeah.
So I mean, maybe if I was actually making enough money to go into further education, maybe I'd do that. But what would I do? I mean, considering the amount of shit that I don't know about politics, it would probably be a good idea to go into like political sciences or something like that. But at the same time, do I want to get into politics? I mean, if we look at, say, what's her fucking name again? I don't want to sound offensive, but the black chick in British politics, I can't remember her fucking name. It will
Red
come to
pill
me soon,
black,
will
is that
it?
it?
No, 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 no. In British politics, like there's
A
what's her
black
fucking
chick
name?
in
Hold on.
British politics, that's not broad at
What's
all.
her
Unless there's
name?
only like
I
two.
know, I know. Hold on 2 seconds.
How many are there? Four?
The
Or
one that I
five?
know of, but like, hold on.
I'll see if
I
I
can't
can
remember.
Google black chick
Yeah,
in British politics.
black chick in British politics. That will get so many
Let's
results.
see. Diane Abbott?
Mm, thank you, Diane Abbott. That's the one.
Seriously?
No, what I was going to say.
That's
Well,
like
what I was
I
going to
looked
say,
up black chick in British
and
politics.
that's of course the first result you're going to get, the one and only result, I'm sure.
It's
But
hilarious.
like, basically, with her, there's of course she gets a lot of flack because I don't know, she's got mental shit going on apparently, or blah blah blah. And it's like, okay, cool.
She's got mental shit going on. What does that mean?
No, no, no. What is it? That this fucking she's under a lot of fire because the usual
She
propaganda
suffered from type
bullshit.
2 diabetes.
Oh,
Isn't it?
and no, sorry, the diabetes thing, which apparently affects her mental state, according to dickheads. So,
Just like Hillary
she's not.
Clinton was dying, so she couldn't
Yeah,
be president.
yeah, right, exactly that. There you go. That's what I'm saying. It's like, of course, if I was to get into politics, it would be a case of like, oh, let's turn the dark lens on this guy, and so it's like, what's the fucking point? I don't need the negative attention. No matter how much fucking good I might be able to do, if I actually had the means to do it, like everyone's going to talk shit, you know. And
Right.
when I say everyone, I mean everyone who would rather see it as, oh, fucking nigger in politics can't have him telling the white people what to do or
Right.
helping people out
Well,
because
yeah,
of
because
reasons.
so I mean, couldn't that potentially be? I mean, if race can be used as like a talking point against you, that could potentially be a bigger impediment than if people couldn't do that. Because like people don't tend to whine that somebody's white in politics, do they? Not that I've really seen.
No, they don't.
I've never
No,
seen
they
anyone be
don't.
like Donald Trump is a cracker, fucking white cracker. Like no, but I have seen
Uh,
plenty of like Obama's from Kenya. Was he
exactly.
really born in America?
That's what I'm getting at. It's like, okay, cool, that matters.
But maybe the race saying calling someone a racist is the new racism against white people.
Oh God,
You're a
see,
racist. Oh, did you just call me the that's the white person's N word. How dare you?
yeah, apparently that's how it is, and it's fucking stupid. Like, I mean, like I said, yes, there is a lot of like calling people racists whenever they're not, sort of thing, and it does get a bit OTT. But we can't just say that that's the reason why we have racists, you know.
Hmm. But just
So
just continuing on what you're saying about your education, do like the way that you see that, is it kind of like all the opportunities are yours and you have to kind of like bootstrap it, lift yourself up by your bootstraps, more of a conservative point of view, and like no one, I'm not a victim, and there's nothing in society holding me back at all, or do you see it more as like there are things that have made it harder to continue that I don't know if necessarily like racial, but like social or some kind of
I wouldn't say
yeah.
there is anything keeping back because at the end of the day, while I wouldn't say that I'm in the most progressive town right now, if I was to go into further education, it would certainly not be in this region. It'd be more like, say, Cambridge or Oxford or blah 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 blah. So of course you're going to have a bit more diversity for
But
one.
it'd be fucking expensive though, right? Wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, it'd be fucking expensive,
Mm.
but which would mean, of course, I'd have to try and make the money here in this shitty town in order to get to these places. So, like I say, vicious circle.
I think it is a bit funny because like sometimes people are like, oh, you just got to save up, you just got to work hard, you just got to do whatever. But like if you're working a really low paying job that because it's the only thing that you can get, and you've got fucking terrible pay, and you have to work like 3 times longer than somebody who was born and raised and lived in a much nicer place, much more expensive housing, and
Mm,
more opportunities, and given more opportunities like at school and given more education. Like it's easy to say you should be working as a checkout operator to save for your education when like there's other people who I don't know
just
potentially just
silver spoon in their mouth. Yeah.
got into office work or something where they just make significantly more money, and they've also got money from their parents and they've got a lot more support, and so it's easy to say you should work harder if you're working a crap job. Because I mean, I'm very privileged, so I don't really have a point of comparison. But when I was working at the supermarket in my teenage years, this is a really pathetic story, but I was like, man, my pay is low, my stress is high, I'm treated like total garbage by my supervisors. How fucking long would I have to work at this job if this was all that I had to find a way up in life? And I thought I could potentially just be stuck at this fucking checkout the rest of my goddamn life, But I'm pretty privileged and a decent upbringing, and my parents are well off, so I don't have to worry about that. But for the 3 years I was at the supermarket, I was like, oh my god, my life's going nowhere. Like I'm doomed. I was just a teenager, so maybe I wasn't like my ambitions weren't evolved yet, or maybe I was just seeing
Mm.
it in the short term. But yeah, what do you think?
Oh, I'll have to agree with you that it does have, well, it is a matter of privilege. Um, I mean, for example, there are members of my extended family who I'd say are at least a wee bit more privileged, and of course, they're black. You know,
Right.
so I wouldn't say that it's a racial privilege thing, more of a just simply like a matter of circumstances and like how things went for them in life. I think that's easier to say in like England than maybe the US, where things seem I mean, just seem to be a little bit different.
More stratified
Hmm.
in the US? Like
Right.
there's more division, or
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, there's definitely a lot more division,
I mean,
but
I don't know if you're in London or whatever, but I went to London maybe 3 years ago or something because my sister lived there and she was living in Peckham.
mhm.
And it was just really weird for me because when I was going to London, I was like, oh, it's just gonna be like all white people everywhere, and it's just gonna be like Whitopia or something. And I guess I just had a very wrong view of London because Peckham is like pretty much entirely like people of like Nigerian and African descent. So when I got to Peckham, I was just like, whoa, everyone here is black. But then I was like, wow, this is not what I expected. And then you walk around the corner to like this other neighborhood, and the next neighborhood's like a bit more developed or like nicer houses and stuff. And all of a sudden, basically everyone's white. You literally just walk around
Hmm.
the corner, and I was like, man, London is it's kind of like it's not spread out like I suppose many of the distinctions are in America. Like you've got like much larger cities and towns which are just mostly one ethnic group, but
Demographic, yeah.
demographic. But in London, it seems like you just got pockets everywhere of like different groups,
Hmm.
and then you're walking a little bit further, and suddenly everyone's Asian. You're just like, whoa, everywhere I walked in London, I was just like, people keep like the people, how the people look keeps changing.
Hmm. Yeah, that's it. Like London is quite diverse, and I will say that I'm not quite near London, but
Hmm.
I would say that where I'm at right now, I think the it's I used to quite call the town quite white. I'd say that it might have actually expanded a wee bit in recent years, or maybe it's always been like that and I just hadn't noticed, but like it just seems a little bit, just a teeny bit more diverse now.
Right.
But at the same time, there's just a lot of narrow-minded, ignorant people in this town, and
And the town you're
yeah,
now.
yeah, that's right.
So do you want to get out of there? Or
Oh yeah, I'm totally trying to get out.
but you have to save money or
um,
whatever?
that's it. And at the moment, like things are a little bit slim on the employment front, shall we say?
Fucking Tories. Bastards.
Indeed.
But
But
anyways, so I guess like just the final point would be with progressives in terms of their like ideology. Um, would you lean more on the direction of kind of like bootstrapping, like lift yourself up, and against the odds, you've got to make your own way, I guess, as opposed to maybe progressives saying like there should be like super strong social services and like free education and a whole range of things that I guess conservative governments wouldn't really prioritize or anything.
that's the thing with what you said about like the whole privilege and that. It's like, well, it makes things seem pretty uneven. I mean, when you think about it, like,
I feel like if I say I recognize my privilege, people are just like, you fucking cuck. You emasculating fucking soy boy, whatever.
well, yeah, well, that's because people just like saying the fuck. Well, some idiots like to say the word "cuck" too much, and they just like, oh, there you go, that's an insult. Like, even though it only really rose up in the last few years, I guess.
Hmm.
And it's like, oh, cool, that's an argument. But
But I
no,
was like, but I recognize that my parents are well off and they've provided me with a lot of support, including financial support. I mean, if isn't it, it's kind of privileged to have parents who have money and are willing to give it to you, isn't it? I mean, a lot of people don't have that.
right, exactly. And honestly, I'd say that if circumstances were different, and if I had a saying been one of my cousins or whatnot, things would probably have been a lot better for me.
Hmm.
You know,
But do
but
you
as I
think do you
said,
agree with the progressive idea of like because when I think of progressivism, I think of what helps the most people with their lives
mm,
practically, and in my perception, all of that would probably be like work training and probably free education, free healthcare. No, well, not free, like based on taxes and,
no,
and so
I
forth.
get it. Um, with in regards to like work training and that, with the with job seekers here, like we actually get like put on courses if needs be to help us get a job. Essentially, I mean, I don't know how that is in New Zealand.
Well,
Or...
I actually like this is why I'm such a disgusting lefty. They do the they do the job seeker things here in New Zealand, but all of those training courses are tied to you getting a job, so they constantly make you jump through all these hoops. There is like, how many jobs have you applied for this week? Like, how much work have you done to get a job and shit?
Yeah.
And I would just get rid of that part and just fucking throw money at people just training. Just like get the fucking training and don't make it so that like you dangle the benefits in front of the people so long as they're training. Like jump through these hoops so you can get this benefit money. Like I think it's a little bit demeaning. It's a little bit like you're trying to force me into these like really shitty roles that I don't want to do, and it's the only way that I can scrape by.
Well, from the sounds of it, it's pretty much the same in New Zealand as it is here in England. Like basically,
it's just like here. Actually, it used to be different. So yeah,
Jesus. But it is, like you say, it's just basically to get a job, not like the job you want. It's like I remember when I was like they'd talk about like courses that you can still like do, which they pay for and blah blah blah. And I'd suggest like, pardon me by the way, I'd suggest like, hey, I want to do blah blah blah, and it's like, oh, sorry, we don't cover for that. And it's like, oh, cool, but I want to do it.
Yeah.
But
well, that's why you need decent job training, and I think
Yeah, no, I will agree with you. To actually give you an answer finally, that decent work training to the jobs that people want, as opposed to just getting a job. So it's like, okay, stop being leached off the system. Next.
And also, people use apprenticeships just to get free labor because you don't even get paid for that kind of shit.
Yeah, exactly that. That's pretty much it. I mean, I remember I was one time doing this voluntary thing where I was just doing some carpentry. The thing is, it was actually interesting because I'm a bit craftsy at times, but like the whole carpentry thing was like it was teaching me different things and blah blah blah. I mean, like I helped my lady's brother like put down the laminate flooring the other day, and I was just enjoying that shit because it was like, oh, it just takes me back to whenever I was doing that shitty fucking voluntary carpentry bullshit. But now I'm actually doing it for a productive reason. Yeah,
Exactly. But I think like in my progressive utopia, maybe I would reduce the amount of privilege people have by accident of their birth and like reduce the amount of privilege in society for everybody because you're all part of society and it's like kumbaya and
No, I'm not saying that's I'm not going to mock that. At the end of the day, right, as much as I might seem like a fucking centrist scum to some, like I do have fairly liberal values, and I would prefer that people weren't fucking shitheads to people because of fucking differences in race or class and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I would love that. And the problem is we don't have that. And I don't know if we're ever going to have that anytime in your fucking lifetime, my lifetime, even our fucking kids' lifetimes, because it seems so fucking far off with how things seem to be almost getting worse.
Right.
And I guess maybe I've become almost defeatist, which is why I maybe come across as fairly fucking, conservative, because I'm just like, there's racists. Yeah, they're going to be racist. Let them get on with it.
Well, because I think, conservatives are all about just kind of like shrinking things, and as you shrink the government and you shrink the things that the government provides, increasing the rhetoric around like self-determination and self-work and all that, and like ignore the fact that we're not making it any easier for you. We're actually just making it a lot more difficult in the way that we're going about this, because you're just going to work even harder. It's going to be great, Whereas I think like from my left wing perspective is more like raise the base living standard of everybody as much as you can while providing an area, or providing an opportunity for people to go beyond just that base standard, whereas I feel like conservatives tend to just diminish the base standard, and they make it based on things like you can only have access to the service if you jump through this hoop and that hoop. And I think for me, that's kind of against just my idea of a society which has a high base standard for each individual. And I think that's kind of the angle where I come at it from. So a lot of people will say, just I want to give people free stuff and everything. But yeah, I mean, what's wrong with providing people with, say, healthcare and education and even housing? Like, I don't know what's wrong with that. If you go about it in an effective way, that has achieves the most amount of good for the most amount of people. I just, I'm not sure why that's so bad, because the only reasoning I get against that is often like fear mongering or something about just like the base nature of people is that they are pieces of shit, so they'll just sit around masturbating or something. And I guess I'm not cynical enough. But if they want to sit around masturbating, I'm like, whatever, I'm not one to judge.
Right. See, here's the thing, Tim, all right? It's very nice to have a view and an idea, but actions speak louder than words. Like, how would you contribute to the ideal that you see as right?
Taxes, man. Do it all through taxes. Just change all the tax structure.
No. Like, how would you personally? How are you going to contribute, or how would you like to contribute? I mean, like I say, actions speak louder than words, and you're talking about it. That's great. But like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do to actually get this idea out there? What do you want to do to get this idea to where it matters?
I'm going to start a movement. I'm going to have a YouTube video, which is going to be like the Tim movement or something like.
The Tim movement. Okay, I like the name already. It's great.
Well, I don't know, like because that's the thing, we're all just small little people, and you can just do your small little part that you can do. And I guess my small little part is just like putting out opinions and just giving a point of view. I have no pretense to being some kind of activist or somebody who's actually like doing something incredible for the world.
Trust me, I'm not trying to like drag you down or to like say, hey, you.
Oh, drag away! I don't care.
Do something, you fucker. Instead of fucking just talking about. No, what I'm really just saying is like, okay, cool. Like, but like, let's take for example, who watches this sort of stuff? Like. Do any of the people that we want to listen to it watch it?
Just bored, lonely losers.
Right, exactly.
I watch stuff too, so
like me.
But
no, the thing is, like, we need to get these ideas where they matter. You get me?
Yeah. So I mean, you're talking about activism.
Well, yeah. I mean.
What are you going to do?
Where it matters. Well, that's it. At the moment, I'm nothing. Because I can't even get the fucking YouTube fucking thing set up. So as far as the real world thing goes, I mean, I have no illusions that I'm in any way better than anybody, that I might like say all the stuff which I've actually, talked about in my notes, says he with the tequila addled mind. But yeah, at some point, if I was, say, more educated in terms of political things, if I had, say, more access to local politics, never mind, well, national politics, that would be great. As for local politics, like, I even looked into it. I saw, like, what jobs are there, say, within like the local politics, like around the town sort of thing, like how could I contribute to just the town? And then all I ended up doing was looking at this story about how this one fucking local politician was involved in some like weird scandal, which I can't even fucking remember off the top of my head, but it's just like, oh, okay. And I guess I got distracted. So, like, but I have a feeling, I have a distinct feeling and maybe I should actually act upon it rather than just shirk away from it, because of my feelings. That there is no room for a black man in local politics.
So you can be the
Right?
first.
I can try, but of course I need to educate
the
myself.
field is stacked against you as well, which is kind of
exactly
frustrating.
So really, if anything, the best bet would be to make sure that I'm as smart as they come.
Right.
Not just some dumb monkey swinging in and out of the jungle, trying to fucking enact change. So.
All right. Well, I wish you luck in that. I think we've been talking for quite a while, so probably just round it up. But
cool.
Yeah,
it was good talking to you, man.
I will say I don't judge other people for not doing activism or for not doing anything. Like I think you just do what you want to do what you got to do, and I'm not going to judge for that. People who kind of judge me for not doing enough, I just think, well, I never said that I do things. I give an opinion. That's why it's demotivator opinion. That's why there's opinion in the title. And
I totally get it.
Said to me that they see me as like an activist, or they see me as whatever because I just give opinions. So people have different perceptions. Anyways, sorry.
Well, here's the thing. I get it, and I don't judge individuals on this. I think like I said in my notes, I'm just judging the left as a whole, because it's all about just fucking the whole us versus them, and there isn't much like. So it might seem like I'm singling you out because you're the only one I'm talking to right now, but no, it's just a simple case of like, I wish that there were more leftists, YouTubers, or even just leftists in general who actually, I'm sure there are leftists who are actually doing something, but leftist YouTubers who actually had more. If they've got good opinions, yes, that's great, but I'd like to actually hear some good ideas and how they'd actually like to put those ideas out there in a way which matters. Don't, of course, take it personally. I mean, that's not my intention, sort of thing. I'd just like to.
I think about the fact that I'm always like, eating meat is wrong. You shouldn't eat meat because it produces like such massive pollution, and it adds to the greenhouse effect, and it's a bad thing to do. And there's a lot of animal cruelty. I still eat meat, so
yeah,
whatever.
I eat meat. I mean, hell, whenever I see and hear the things about fucking milk, I'm not the biggest fan of milk anyway. But if I'm gonna have fucking cereal, I gotta have milk with it, all right? But just the things whenever it comes to milk and like what percentage of whatever crap could be in it, I'm just like, ugh, but still I need it with my cereal. So, but yeah. But yeah, you're hoping to wrap up, so I'm not going to get into a long old debate about milk right now. And
hold up! Stop! I got a super chat. Sorry, I was just pulling in Andy Warski.
Okay.
Hold up. 50. You gave me 50 MX. What the fuck is MX? Like
Marx, I don't know.
How much is that worth? Like it's like 2 cents or something. MX dollars. Oh, that's 1.4 New Zealand dollars. Is it? Oh, it's a peso. Mexican peso, 1.4. I was like, oh, it's 50. That looks like a racist. Well, you're allowed to say that because you just gave me money. So you can say whatever if you get the money, you can say whatever you want to me. There's a guy in my chat called Ray. He always leaves negative comments on my videos. He's always moaning about everything I say and do. So I just say fuck you, and I treat him like a jerk all the time because he's always being such a negative Nancy. But
so is he actually a twat, or is he just someone who likes to have a bit of banter?
He's actually a twat.
Okay.
At least, well, I mean, based on the way he treats me, like he's always like being a dick. But if you gave me some money, I'd say you're cool. Oh, I got $2 from Jenny McDermott. I don't know how to feel right now. Okay. Anyways, we're just wrapping it up anyways, so you can save your super chats. And I think we have come to the conclusion that shit's complicated.
Shit is complicated. On a On a related note, actually, how complicated am I? I mean, am I progressive enough, or have I not passed the test?
It doesn't matter. You're my black friend, and that's you're gonna have a lot of
Awesome
utility for
sauce.
me over the coming weeks.
Yeah, I've even given you permission to say the word nigger, so there you go. You got it. As long as you're using it in a positive context, all
I
right,
just
you
think
can
it's
say it
funny
as
that you
many
were
times
like
as you want.
you were giving me shit for not saying the N word. I'm like, that's how much of a friend my black friend is. He wants me to say N word. Prove it wrong. I can't be a racist.
Right. I mean, one of my actual in the really real world friends, he refuses to say the word, and I'm just like, just say it, man. But he's just been brought up. Good on him to not say it, and I guess I should just respect his wishes to not say it. But on that note,
All right.
uh, thank you guys for tuning in. I don't know why I'm taking that off of you. I'm just sort of like saying thank you for watching this guy who never done this shit before ever. And yeah, thank you.
What? Tim just racially profiled his guest. I mean, this is why I think the Ray guy's stupid. Like everything he says is just moronity. That's not even a word, but there you go. Like you're a moronic. That is a word. You're a moronic. Fuck you. Die. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm
All
completely
right.
unprofessional. Yeah.
Fuck professionalism. Fuck it.
You don't have a
Anyway,
Twitter. You don't. I know you do have a Twitter. You don't have a YouTube. A lot of people are saying
I
what's this YouTube.
yeah, I don't have one. I'm okay. I'm very sorry, guys. I did see some of your stuff up. I did answer one fellow who was asking if I've got a YouTube channel or girl. Or I'm sorry, I didn't mean to assume your gender there. But I don't have a YouTube channel. Eventually, I'll get on that shit whenever I've got the means and ends. Uh, don't know what fucking said there. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. Eventually, I will have something up. I don't know what I'll be doing right now. I may even do some fucking game, streaming, or I might
Dark
just talk
Souls.
about social politics. Yeah, most likely Dark Souls, but more likely Bloodborne because that game frustrates the shit out of me. And if, of course, people who've seen me play video games are if their opinion's anything to go by, well, you might be entertained by that. Who knows? Anyway, if you really want to follow any of the shit that I say, then just follow me at Black Brit One.
Hmm. And
Just
sign up to my Patreon, and
sign up to his
I'll send the money to him. I promise.
Patreon. He's totally not going to send the money to me. Anyway, right.
No, I'll do it. All right.
All right. Thank you,
Thank you,
Tim,
everybody.
for your time. All right. Catch you
All right.
later.
See you all in hell.
Bye bye.